For audio listeners, that's the sound of a cat breaking its neck. Ran full force at a brick wall. Welcome to Respawn Aim Fire, the kick-ass irreverent gaming podcast from Affable Idiots. I'm one of your hosts, Chad. Michael Innes. Don't sip Mountain Dew like it's tea. And we've got our regular co-host here, Adam. Oh, sip that tea so hard, Gumbert. How are you, Adam? Oh, that's good content.
It's lemonade, actually, not tea.
Very good, very good. And with us again, our RAF regular, Alex. Sipping on some scissor. Kozi, how are you, Alex?
Bonjour, tous les gars. Oh, comment allez-vous? Now, I know you're probably wondering, oh, that's interesting, Kozi. Why are you speaking French right now? Well, I'm speaking French because, of course,
because you're French
Montreal is a bilingual city. Indeed, it is French-Canadian. We all speak French around here. No other reason why I could be speaking French after curiously being absent from the show for 3 weeks in a row. No reason
Is it
whatsoever.
because you play a French game called Pajama Pete's Squeaky Feet or something?
Not even close. No. If you've been following me over on Twitter, you'll know that I recently went on a big, longish 2-week European vacation. Went to ye old London, ye old UK, aka England. Went to Amsterdam, where I went to a crazy-ass wedding for my cousin Michael. And then after that, wedding. I scooted over to Gay Paris in France, where I had many a croissant, for real, and many other good foods. Let me tell you, it was quite the vacation, and I have quite the video game related story involving this vacation coming up on this podcast.
And Alex, you officially just got us banned from Florida because you said gay on the podcast.
Oh no!
Way to go!
Oh damn!
Our whole giant user base in Florida. Gee,
yeah, all 0 of them.
That's fantastic, Alex. I'm just now realizing this is the first time we're talking about this on the podcast.
Right.
I guess because we asked you about it last week when we recorded Pitch Perfect, but
right. The chronology of things is such that literally 2 days, like not even 48 hours after coming back from Europe, we did our installment of Pitch Perfect for the month of July, which of course you'll be able to listen to in just a couple of days if you've subscribed to us over on Patreon. And let me tell you, that episode went great, but I was definitely out of it that entire time. Like, I don't have many memories of it because I was very jet lagged during the recording. But yeah, we did not talk at all about that vacation during that podcast because you had to skedaddle very quickly and we all kind of left shortly after that.
Well, tell me without saying gay again, tell me your top 3 favorite things you did the entire trip.
Ooh, top 3 favorite things. Oof, putting me on the spot here. So something that I actually DM'd you privately about, because you may or may not be going to London on your own time soon, is me, my sister, and my cousin went to a magic-themed bar called The Cauldron. And the whole idea is it's reservation only. Basically, you're brought down into this basement. They seat you at a table, and they're like, all right, first off, we're going to go over to these giant monster heads. You're going to bow before them to show them proper respect, and they're going to fill up your receptacles with all manner of magical alcoholish drinks that you'll love to appreciate. And then after that, it's like, all right, choose from the Magic Potion Cauldron book what magical drinks you want to make. You choose your drinks, and they're like, all right. They bring out not only the ingredients that you need to make said drinks, but all sorts of weird like apparatuses and trinkets and doodads, and you basically have to like play potion maker / alchemist and like make the drink yourself using the power of magic and friendship and love. That was really fun.
That's amazing. I also love that friendship and love are distinct from magic, and they are not themselves inherently magical.
It's all linked, though. It's part of the Triforce of magic, as it were. After that, I'm going to do one per country. In Amsterdam, I referenced it earlier. We went to my cousin Michael's wedding. Let me tell you, I've been to a lot of weddings in my time. That one, I would say, like pretty definitively, was the best I've ever been to. Yes, Adam.
Question. Have you been on more weddings than Joel?
How many weddings has Joel been to?
He
Joel
did one
goes to
every
a
weekend
wedding.
for about a year.
Wow.
Joel's like, what do you want to do tonight? Do you want to eat hamburgers or you want to go to a wedding? And his wife's like, I guess we could just go see who's getting married at the church tonight. And I'm just like, that's his idea of joy. Is just going to
But
weddings.
I want to hear about this
Wow.
wedding more, but that's just funny that you guys both go to a lot of weddings, apparently.
Yeah, so the thing about this wedding in Amsterdam, right, is our entire trip was centered around it. My cousin Michael had announced that he was going to be doing this wedding in Amsterdam a year out to give us all ample time to prepare for it. A lot of us were still like a little bit peeved about it because it's like, you know, a huge ask to be like, hey, displace yourself from Montreal in North America and travel to an entirely different continent and go have a wedding there. But man, let me tell you, he really made it worth it. We had a, you know, short little non-religious ceremony where they talked about their experience meeting each other and how much they love each other. Aperol spritzes were just getting traded left and right. They were popping champagne
Asshole
too.
spritzes?
By the time that, no, Aperol spritz, which I, by the way, for the record, I mispronounced as an apple spritz because I thought it was apple flavored. It's not.
That sounds
it's
like a
Aperol
delicious drink.
flavored, spelled Aperol. It's very good. Very good. Definitely have a few of them when you pop into Amsterdam, France, and or Italy because they're very tasty.
They look
had
like
about,
if you mix ketchup and orange soda together. That's what it looks like to me.
it
The
definitely
color, at least.
tastes right. Definitely tastes much better than ketchup. Please don't be deterred by that. Anyways, had a good 10 of those plus a couple of champagnes by the time we got on the boat because yes, there was a boat after the ceremony. Step 1 foot on the boat. Guess what song they start playing? That's right. They start playing the
My Heart Will Go On.
the Smokeweed Everyday song by one Snoop Doggy Dogg, aka Snoop Lion. And I'm like, this is perfect. About 2 minutes onto the boat ride, I'm like, oh man, I am way too drunk right now. I think I might legit fall over, but I keep things together. Boat ride lasts about an hour. Honestly, totally fine with that. Go and have dinner. It's a nice, you know, fancy dinner, all sorts of steaks and whatnots. After that, we do a little bit of dancing, and then they're like, all right, that's good. Guess what? Now it's time for the after party that begins at 12 a.m., and they basically
Disgusting.
bust us over to a tower just north of Amsterdam Central Station and like the kind of main river that flows through the city. Forget what it's called. Anyways, basically we got to go up to this like private space on top of this tower overlooking the city. And let me tell you, the booze, the drugs, the snacks only continued from there. It was like I can't imagine how expensive all of this was, but he went all out and I'll never forget it.
That's amazing. I also went to a wedding this weekend, and there was an after party that lasted until 4 a.m. And I said,
Ooh.
I will see you all later at 12:30. And I said, nope, I am an adult, and I have to drive and go on a plane tomorrow for a very long time.
Yeah, good on you. What was I was gonna say? I was gonna joke and say that the food was the best part of France. The food was very good in France. Last time I was in France, we went to Versailles, which is that big old chungus of a house.
Yeah, for you Americans, that's Versailles.
Yeah, Versailles. Yeah, big old chungus of a house that all the old French nobles lived in before they decided to off with their heads. I mean, the house itself, you know, it's a big house. There's a lot of cool looking rooms, but in the evening, they corralled us all into the garden, which is one of those just like immaculate, like impossible gardens that you don't think is actually real. And they put on one hell of a pyrotechnics and fireworks show there that I thought was very enjoyable to experience. So there we go.
There is. You said chungus. Was that a? Do you know what the chungus is?
Big chungus.
I'm just referencing the what is it, like the old Jimquisition, like Roger Rabbit, Rita Rabbit. What's his name? Bugs Bunny.
So
the Bugs
yes,
Bunny thing.
Okay, yes. I was not aware of this meme before just now, and I googled it. And yes, there is a
Really?
fat Bugs Bunny called Big Chungus.
Like
And
Big
there's a
Chungus is in
PS4
Space
theme
Jam
for it.
2.
I was going to
He's
say,
literally Space Jam 2
it
as
was
a
like
joke.
one of
Who
those
do you
things
think
where
I
like
am?
it existed as just like a meme, and then it made its way into movies and games proper.
That's amazing. That's
Very
amazing.
good. That's very good.
Well, Alex, I'm glad you had such a great time. Thank you again for he wrote me a bunch of recommendations for places when I go, and I will tell you,
I didn't get any of that.
if I enjoyed the chungus as
Yeah.
well.
I didn't get any of that.
I'm just going
It
to
was
give
a
you.
secret
I'm going to
text.
give you a forewarning, Chad. One of those recommendations that I gave you is actually a trap, and it's actually infested with spiders. But you won't know until you go there, so you'll have to choose
Joke's
carefully.
on you. I'm a quarter Cherokee spider.
Oh, shit.
That's amazing. We are going to continue our intro and say you can catch us on twitch.tv/affability on Sunday evenings, usually at 8:30 p.m. Eastern time. We know we're recording it on Monday this time. I was at a wedding. Shut up. YouTube and podcast services Tuesday mornings at 9 a.m. Eastern time as well. We've got some things to talk about. We've got some...
I got breaking news.
Oh, my God. The pace
Alex
of this podcast
got to talk about
today
his trip.
is
Alex
just
got to talk about his
interruption
trip.
after interruption. Okay. Before you talk about your thing, we're gonna put a cap. We're gonna put a cap on this tabernacle discussion going on. In the
I'm
chat.
just
That is
like, I
you
spent
have to
the
watch
past
live.
10 minutes. I spent the past 10 minutes talking about my trip to Europe. I was not paying attention to the chat, but I saw that you guys were talking
have to
very
watch live to
animatedly
get-
about
to get
something
all
there.
that goodness.
Why were you talking about the Ark of the Covenant in there?
Okay, so when you started talking French, I said tabernacle, which I know is, what is it? Is it like...
This is like a drunk
It's
It's
person.
the
I looked it up on
tabernacle,
Google
and it's
just now.
it is a very specifically French Canadian insult. The people in
Yeah.
France don't really use it.
Okay, so it's French Canadian. I knew it's a thing French Canadian said. And that led us to talking about the tabernacle, which my stepdad taught a course on when I was a kid. And
Okay.
Chad had no idea what it really was, but it was basically a tent. It was like the first like church. It was a place of worship. It was a covered tent, and the Jews would move it throughout Egypt or whatever that area is. And it's supposed to be where the Ark of the Covenant was kept, was inside the tabernacle. And then I guess eventually it became a permanent church at some point. I don't remember because I was like 7 when he taught this class, and I don't really care. But I remember all about the tabernacle because he taught that course for like 8 weeks.
I like to imagine that
remember
this was
parts.
not a course at like a school or community college or a Sunday school, but this was just something that he posted flyers on telephone poles that said, "Hey, I'm teaching this at my house on
Hey guys,
Wednesdays."
by the way, come on over. Talking about the tabernacle. It was interesting stuff. I don't remember most of it. I just think it was like purple and the Ark of the Covenant. That's all I cared about because I just watched Indiana Jones. It was like Ark of the Covenant. You have I'm intrigued.
All right,
That was
all right. We are now going to go for a breaking disruption from Adam.
Oh, actually, I have a bigger idea, bigger thing.
I don't know what that means.
That the thing I was actually talking about. I'm on Discussing Film Twitter, which has 1.1 million followers, and the latest update is Mr. Beast
on X.
stars on X. Yeah, Mr. Beast stars in TMNT Mutant Mayhem.
Huh.
Good for Mr. Beast.
Mr. Beast.
He's very famous, Chad.
I see a picture of him with a Nickelodeon background. There was a live my brother and me taping a couple months ago, and the episode was just released on podcast services earlier, and one of the audience members say, "How do I tell people I'm not Mr. Beast?" And apparently he looked just like Mr. Beast, but it was an audio recording, so I could not confirm. But that's the only time I've ever heard of Mr. Beast.
Quick timeout. Chad,
Yes.
when you advertised that the show was going live over on Twitter/X, you said, we're live now on twitch.tv/affableidiots talking about great news for Xbox JRPG fans and more. Come hang out with us and tell us what your favorite Kong is in the chat.
And I swear to God, we're going to talk about video games eventually.
You responded to it by saying it's definitely Baby Kong because that guy can somersault like nobody's business. And then you posted a GIF of a character from Donkey Kong Country 3 called Kitty Kong, not Baby Kong.
Fuck.
Now, I will say,
You're totally right.
Donkey Kong Country 3, a very underrated platformer. I think it's one of the most underrated games on the SNES. Kitty Kong is definitely the weakest part of that game. They definitely should not have swapped out Donkey Kong and Diddy Kong for a literal baby
Damn it.
Kong, but nevertheless, I just figured that I needed to correct you.
Hold on. You don't know I was referring to Donkey Kong Country 3. Because Baby Kong is the infant son of King Kong and Lady Kong, who appears at the end of the 1986 film King Kong Lives.
I was going to ask, is it King Kong's kid? Because he definitely has a kid.
If you have not seen that movie, I absolutely have, and I know that he somersaults like a motherfucker through it. So maybe before you start trying to call me out, and I just happened to type Baby Kong in there, and because it's a 1986 film, they didn't have GIFs of those films back then, so I had to use something more recent.
Okay.
So I appreciate you calling me out, and I will toss that into the trash. Okay, Mr. Beast did something. We're finally moving on to talk about video games. We've got all sorts of fun stuff. We're going to start with our main quest. Switch successor release date? Andy Robinson at VGC says development kits for Nintendo's next console are now with key partner studios with launch planned for next year, sources have told VGC. According to multiple people with knowledge of Nintendo's next-gen console plans, the company is likely to release new hardware during the second half of 2024 to ensure... Excuse me. Ooh, Mountain Dew getting to me. To ensure that it has ample stock available on day one and to avoid the kind of shortages seen with PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X Type S. Although specific details on the console are being kept closely guarded, those VGC spoke to indicated that the next-gen console would be able to be used in portable mode, similar to the Nintendo Switch. Two sources VGC spoke to suggested that the console could launch with an LCD screen instead of a more premium OLED screen. Other details, such as backwards compatibility support for Switch games, physical and digital, remains unclear. Nintendo has said it wants to convert as many of Switch's 100 million plus user base as soon as possible to its next system. Sorry, as much of its user base as possible to the next system. Whew, lots of speculation going on here. A couple of little deets, and Alex, you look like you have something you want to say real bad.
I'm going to say right here, right now, I really just pray to God that the next Nintendo system is backwards compatible. Please, please, please. I don't want another console generation where Nintendo on Twitter or X or whatever the fuck it's going to be called next is going to be like, hey guys, guess what? Mario Kart for the Game Boy Advance is now on Nintendo consoles again. We have had this rigmarole happen too many times in a row with Nintendo consoles. Just please make it backwards compatible. I understand part of the concern here is that some people are like, oh man, if it's backwards compatible, that might undercut the sales of Switch 2 exclusive games. I get that. Don't care. Make it backwards compatible.
I was actually talking to Matt from Rhode Island, my soulmate, love of my life.
Matt from RI?
Matt from RI. We were talking about this in Rhode Island, oddly enough. And about the fact that we were talking about backwards compatibility and Nintendo's history with it, especially with like DS playing Game Boy games and things like that. But the fact that we're already seeing now the limitations of cartridges on Nintendo Switch, where like, for instance, the Batman Arkham trilogy only has the first game on it and then everything else is downloadable. And it's like, if we start improving the quality of the graphics and making them 4K instead of 1080 on these cartridges will not be an option for future consoles in Nintendo because they don't make sense with the cost of how much it would take to get something that big and that fast. So that's an interesting, I think it has to, and I think at the expense of more bulk and actually integrating a Switch into the Switch 2, similar to how they did that with GameCube and Wii and Wii U, just because they have this huge library that they can't just abandon that library now, especially with all the work they're doing
for sure
to make Wii U stuff accessible on Switch, and then the online service that hopefully doesn't fucking die with this generation like it always does. But I think it has to be backwards compatible. That they cannot release another system, or else I will burn them down.
Part of the problem is that their whole Nintendo Switch online system, it very much feels like it is kind of like a continuous work in progress. We only just recently got Game Boy and Game Boy Advance games added to it. You'd have to imagine that GameCube
and very
games,
few that are worthwhile.
right. You'd have to imagine that GameCube games and so on and so forth are probably in the pipeline. It would be really weird for them to be like, yeah, all that stuff is scrapped. We're starting from day one. Here's the NES, Nintendo Switch Online 2 rigmarole that you can slowly, patiently wait by as we slowly dole out Super Mario Bros, VS for arcades. They can't do that again. They can't.
Yeah. Adam, you're up. You had something to say, and then I cut you off.
Yeah, something about, I don't remember exactly what it was, but people being like, oh, it can't be backwards compatible because that'll undercut its own sales. As a consumer, you shouldn't care about how much money Nintendo makes. You should be concerned about what the best product for you is, which I always think is a weird hill to die on. But it's cool. I'm really excited. The one thing I'll give Nintendo a lot of credit for, well, they do a weird, hey, we're going to announce a thing. And it's okay. You could just announce it. But then when they actually announce it, it's really cool. They're like, hey, in 3 months, there's a new system coming out, which is always cool and exciting. I like the way that they do it. So that'll be cool. It'll be interesting. I'll see what they make. Again, definitely still going to be portable. Needs to be backwards compatible. You know, your account actually working now. That's awesome that we have an account and it can carry over and be like, hey, I bought a thing. Let it work over here. I'm interested to see like what the new gimmick will be, or if it's a Switch but more powerful, which I think isn't an awful thing. But we know Nintendo always wants to do something a little weird and wacky. I'm just excited for what they come up with. Yeah, and maybe I'll get another one. I've owned every Nintendo console. I'll just say that. Do I have them now? No. But I've owned every one of them.
I wonder if Nintendo is crazy enough to be like, you know what? Nintendo Switch 2 has a 3D display again. This is how we make old 3DS games backwards compatible, even though you don't need them to be 3D.
I am all for the 3D revolution re-revolutionizing itself. I am so mad at all of the rest of the world for giving up on 3D movies, because Avatar 2 in 3D in IMAX was incredible. And it was
great.
It was amazing. Make my eyes bleed. And then hearing about the 3D stuff coming in the Vision Pro and how like Apple might be developing 3D content, like video content for its shows. I'm like, yes, let's bring 3D back. I want to make that a thing. And then they, like, when Super Nintendo World, when they showed off, like, when you're waiting in line at the Mario Kart thing and they're using all the same technology for the 3DS screens to have, like, 3D things going on nearby. Like bring it back. I want it. Yeah. And then I want to be able to dock it, and then it makes my TV 3D.
the moment when I realized that the 3D revolution was over was when the Pokemon games on the 3DS stopped using 3D. Because if you remember, for Pokemon X and Y, they only used 3D in battles, and then the overworld was non-3D. And then for Sun and Moon, they just gutted the 3D component of the game entirely. When that happened, I was like, okay, I guess it's over. Last thing I'll say on this real quickly, if the timeline of this is all correct and we're to expect the Switch successor in the latter half of 2024, I guess we'll probably first hear about it around like E3/Summer Game Fest time next year, which is exciting.
If anything, we have to hear about it this year. We have to. They have to announce it because I predicted
this year?
And I have to win.
Oh, okay.
I predicted that they would announce it, not release, but just announce that it exists by the end of this year.
It won't even be E3. It'll be like 6 weeks after E3. They're like, hey, by the way, the Switch coming out in a couple months.
Yeah.
When was the Switch? Wasn't it like January or so? I feel like it was a really weird time.
It was
the beginning of November, right?
Yeah. Beginning of November.
There was the trailer that just dropped on a random morning in like November. Yeah. And then they're like, stay tuned in January for a direct around what this is going to look like.
That's what it was, a direct in January.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
Yeah. And then it released in March. It released with our birthday, the podcast birthday, because we started our podcast the week before the release of the Switch, talking about Horizon Zero Dawn.
The podcast will probably have to do something special to commemorate the launch of the new console.
Maybe we'll have another baby. A baby Colin.
Wait. Oh, there he is. He's back. 1986.
Yeah. We're going to move on to playtime. Alex, you wrote a lot of words, and Adam wrote letters. So we're going to talk about Alex's pajama putt-putt.
I'm done with his last two things. The last two things on his list, I know what they are, and it's wild that you decided to play these in 2023.
I am so curious. Please, Alex, tell me all about the reasons why you chose to play these games and how they went.
All right. So, in the lead up to my trip to Europe, y'all on the podcast were like, so Alex, what games are you going to be bringing with you to Europe? And I said, it's going to be a secret. It's going to be a surprise. You'll find out when I come back home from Europe. And let me tell you, I'm ready to tell you all about it. So, about a year ago, became familiar with the works of one Jaizu over on Twitter. You can find him at Jaizu Fan Gaming. That's Jaizu Fan Gaming. The guy specializes. Sorry.
What is that in English?
I don't think it's anything in English. I think it's just Jaizu.
Jaizu?
Yeah.
Get it? I did the ignorant American thing. I'm sorry. Continue.
Not a problem. Anyways, Jaizu is basically specialized. I don't know why you guys are wearing glasses. I got to be totally honest.
You're wearing glasses?
I mean, yeah, not as ostentatious as whatever the hell you're wearing. Anyways, Jizu has specialized in making ROM hacks of the kind of Gen 3 Pokemon games that offer all sorts of neat little improvements and whatnots to them. The first project of his that I really became familiar with him through was Pokemon Emerald Cross, which is basically a quality of life ROM of Pokemon Emerald. It basically takes the base Pokemon Emerald game, keeps the design of it fully intact, but basically implements a lot of changes and improvements here to just make the process of playing it in 2023 that much smoother. So for example, you can run anywhere in the game instead of being restricted from running when you're in inside houses or whatnot. You can use TMs and HMs and other things without needing to teach them to your Pokemon. All these sorts of things that nowadays as modern day Pokemon fans were so over. Really love that. Recently, he had been working on a new ROM called Pokemon Unova Emerald, which basically was him taking Emerald Cross, all the quality of life improvements there, and basically updating the Pokédex of the game. So it included Pokemon up until Generation 5, which were the black and white games. And so you'd be able to run around the Hoenn region of Pokemon Emerald with a Tepig, an Oshawott, and Patrat in your party, and many, many other Pokemon from that generation. And I was like, this game looks really, really cool. I always have loved the idea of being able to continue playing through Pokemon Emerald and getting to experience more content and more Pokemon than that game offered back in the mid 2000s. Thing is, the project seems like it's constantly in production. Doesn't seem like it'll be finished soon. Coincidentally, he ended up stopping production on it, finishing production on it, just before I decided to go on vacation. And basically it's the tools that I'm using to create this mod are becoming a little bit too difficult and advanced for me to continue editing it. So I'm just putting out the last version of the game. That happened. I'm like, great. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to download this mod to one of my portable devices and I'll be able to play it on the road. I went looking online. I'm like
okay.
Okay.
An analog pocket? Can I play this
so
is it like a typical GBA ROM? Can I just download it and play it in an emulator?
So initially, I was like, maybe I could download it to my 3DS because, hacking your 3DS, very easy nowadays. Looked into it. I'm like, seems a little bit difficult. You know what I would love? I would love to be able to have a traditional, Alexander Kazina, 12 years old travel experience where I bring along my original DS Fat from 2004. Or
the chunky boy over there.
One of the
chunky.
Game
Chunky
Boy Advances.
Kong. That's my favorite Kong.
that my friend Alex Mazza gave to me in grade school before he realized that they had any value. And so I went looking up online, and sorry, give me a second. My head is away from the mic.
Take your time.
Found this thingamabob called the Easy Flash Omega. And what it is it's a flash drive in the shape of a Game Boy Advance cartridge that you can stick into your
those as a kid.
Game Boy Advances. But here's the catch. You can load it up with ROMs via micro SD card.
Oh, that's fancy. When I had one as a kid, it had a special connector and you plugged it into a PCI port on your PC and loaded it with ROMs. And it was 256 megabytes, and that was huge.
Holy shit. And so, I went and patched my ROM of Pokemon Emerald to make it Unova Emerald, downloaded it to the micro SD card, plugged it into the Easy Flash Omega. Real hard to remember name. Please apologize for that. Plugged it in, and we were good to go. And I was off to Europe with those two consoles in tow, plus my Switch, because I also wanted to play a little bit of Moonlighter. You guys just keep adding all sorts of incredibly bizarre objects.
Watch the video version over on youtube.com/@respawningandfiring.
You look like...
I'm actually worried about these because these are my Xbox Series X skins, and I don't want to bend them or crease them.
Are you guys familiar with the George Lucas talk show?
I'm familiar with George Lucas, and I've heard him talk, and I've watched a show with him on it.
There's this talk show that these two actor comedian dudes do where one of them dresses up as Watto and the other one dresses up as George Lucas, and they basically do this talk show in person as those characters. Where they bring on guests and do other wacky shenanigans, and you both look like the bootleg versions. Oh Jesus, I didn't know. I knew that Watto was a slaver. I didn't know that he was violent as well.
Look at this Swiss Army knife that has my name on it, Michael Innes. Got it in Switzerland.
Ooh. Anyways,
in Lucerne.
Brought the Easy Flash Omega with me on the plane with my DS Fat and GBA SP in tow. Everything was going great. Was playing them plenty on the train. Sorry, not on the train, on the plane. There are no trains that take you all the way across the pond from Montreal to Europe. Anyways, this is a very long story. I'll try to speed it up. Realized that I was running out of energy, and I'm like, okay, not a problem. I'll be able to plug it into the wall when I get there, and we'll be good. I had brought along a bunch of those wall adapters, which, allow you to plug in your, normal two-pronged electronics. Forgot that the GBA power adapters don't accept the level of voltage in Europe. I'd completely forgotten because, as of recent, you can plug in your iPhones, you can plug in your Nintendo Switch into any which wall in the world, and they'll work just fine. Not the case with the Game Boy Advance adapter. I'm like, oh shit, this is a problem. Now, I wasn't too concerned because I had my Switch and I could continue to play Moonlighter on that. But I was like, I need to find myself a GBA Advance adapter that's compatible with European plugs, or I need to find a power converter that I can plug into the wall with my normal GBA adapter. Went looking
That's
all
why
over
I'm
London.
all on board with the USB-C revolution. Like, just one thing. You don't have to worry about wall adapters anymore. Just have everything just USB-C.
Exactly. Unfortunately, we're dealing with electronics from the mid-2000s, so no could do. Went looking all over London, visited many a secondhand video game store, visited many an electronics store, couldn't find anything. Went to Amsterdam. Went looking all over the city, went looking in all sorts of secondhand video game stores, electronic stores, couldn't find anything. Last place I went to recommended, just order something via Amazon. And I'm like, that sounds like a good idea. That makes a lot of sense. My one concern is the rate at which the trip is going. If I order something on Amazon, it probably will not arrive in time for me to take advantage of it before I have to leave Paris. Nevertheless, I travel to Paris. I arrive on Tuesday, the 18th of July. On Thursday, the 20th of July, I decide to go to a toy shop there called Lulu Berlu. I'm just going to take a quick tangent here and say, if you are ever in Paris, definitely visit Lulu Berlu. It is a fantastic toy store, like an incredible spread of like old school G.I. Joes, Thundercats, Star Wars, all the crazy ass toys you could ever imagine. Walked out of Lulu Berlu and I saw, hey, what's that over there? That's a video game store. Oh, and what's that over there? There's another video game store and another video game store and another video game store. Turns out the boulevard I was on, Boulevard Voltaire, is like the video game mecca of Paris, and I didn't even realize it. Walked into one store and I was like, hey, you guys happen to have any GBA chargers in stock? And they were like, no, I'm sorry, we don't have any. But the store next door might happen to have one. Walked into that store and I got myself a Europe compatible GBA charger for 15 euros. So shout out to Tronix. Tronix for supplying me with this in my time of need. Now, by that point, I only had 3 days left in my trip to Europe, but it ended up being like 3 pretty critical days because the next day I went to Lollapalooza with my sister. I had to chaperone her around there. I like live music. There weren't any artists there that really were of much interest to me. So while we were waiting in line or doing what have you, I got in a few more hours in my copy of Pokemon New Nova Emerald. And then after that, it was off to Versailles, which was a very long bus ride there and back. And then after that, it was a plane ride back. So even though for most of the trip I was without a proper charger, I really took advantage of it during those past few days.
Speaking of ignorant American things, this is me right now realizing that Lollapalooza is not just a Chicago thing, but is in fact in 7 countries worldwide.
Oh yeah. It's
a
Mr. Worldwide affair.
In the US.
So I mentioned it a couple of times throughout that very long-winded story. I did also play Moonlighter while I was on the trip. In fact, I mostly played Moonlighter because that was the main game that I brought along with me on my Switch. Not going to say too much about it today because we'll save our thoughts for Barf, which will be coming up this weekend, Monday, sometime within the immediate future.
Sunday. This upcoming Sunday.
Perfect. All I'll say is that I beat it and played a fair bit of its DLC Between Dimensions, and I thought it was very, very redacted. After that, when I got back home from Europe, I decided to play a little bit of Diablo 4's first new season. I actually, before even doing that, decided to just go and collect all those Lilith statues in like my base version of the game, because the benefits you get from collecting those like cross over to all subsequent accounts that you create. I'm currently playing a sorcerer with electricity powers, and I find playing as them pretty exciting, pretty fun. Gotta be honest, don't care for most of the new content that's in the first season of the game. I'm definitely looking forward to like seeing what the next proper like story expansion of Diablo 4 is going to be, because of how much I enjoy the story and the kind of proper standalone version of the game. But yeah, I'll definitely see in the future if I kind of continue to stick to the seasonal content, because it seems a little throwaway. I don't know. Have you guys been able to experience it?
No.
I played a little bit of it, maybe 2 hours or so. Haven't gone back to it yet.
Yeah.
To be honest, I probably won't return to it until we see the DLC, which I assume is going to focus on like Mephisto and have a brand new character class, and that's when I'll jump in and be like, cool, let me play as this character class now through the whole game.
Right.
With the DLC.
Yeah. A lot of people took issue with the fact that you have to roll a new character when you start the new seasonal content. I honestly didn't have an issue with that. It's more just the seasonal content itself being, I would say, not all that. But anyways, the game's still fun. And then after that, Chad, I decided to pop in and play a game that you have made fun of many a times over the course of the past hour or so that we've been recording this. I decided to play a little game called Pajama Sam in No Need to Hide When It's Dark Outside. Let me tell you a little bit about Pajama Sam in No Need to Hide When It's Dark Outside. This is a PC adventure game made by Humongous Entertainment, a company that was co-founded in 1992 by one Ron Gilbert, better known as the adventure game creator behind such hits as Maniac Mansion and the Secret of Monkey Island series. And beyond co-founding the company, he basically had a pretty like heavy hand in developing all of the games that it put it out in like the subsequent years following its founding, including this Pajama Sam game. And let me tell you, playing through Pajama Sam after all these years, because Pajama Sam was one of those games that I, as a kid, obsessively played over and over and over and over again, because I just freaking loved it back in the day. It was one of my formative gaming experiences. Gotta say, this game holds up shockingly well. It is a game that is definitely aimed at a much younger audience than even the likes of The Secret of Monkey Island, but it still has a lot of that, again, like early like LucasArts / Ron Gilbert adventure game humor, just a lot of like great comedy, but also like really kind of like heartfelt, interesting characters, and some pretty like decent puzzles that are a little bit more digestible, because again, they're made with a kind of slightly younger audience in mind. But honestly, I appreciate that as somebody who has really struggled in the past with some of these super esoteric adventure games. And it ends on
Adam, have you ever heard of this Pajama Sam before?
I absolutely have. I never played Pajama Sam, but I knew it was definitely a thing.
I'm surprised I haven't heard of it before. I'm looking at it on Wikipedia, and it has several games. It has a whole series of books.
Yeah, so some of the Pajama Sam games and like some of the other Humongous Entertainment games got re-released on the Wii back during the Wii era, and more recently they had like been making the rounds being re-released on modern consoles, but they only came to PS4 / PS5 very recently. And I'd been meaning to check them out, and when I saw okay, they're finally on PlayStation, I'm like, perfect, I'll check them out here, because I am definitely looking forward to getting that platinum trophy for finally beating Pajama Sam and No Need to Hide When It's Dark Outside. I'll stop saying the full name because that's real tiring to say. My only critique of this game is it has no platinum trophy. I don't know.
Oh my god. Is it one of those loser games that has a bunch of trophies but no platinum?
Yes, and I got all those other loser trophies. Game. Wasn't hard to get all the rest of them, but it's so dispiriting, because like there are so many other games out there. I've played like quite a few adventure games on my PlayStation consoles in the past that are like much lesser than Pajama Sam in terms of quality, in terms of content, in terms of just overall just packing a punch. And those games had platinum trophies. This game doesn't, and I am profoundly disappointed that it doesn't. And then after
I've got
that,
two things about Pajama Sam.
yes,
By the way, these titles are great. Of course, No Need to Hide When It's Dark Outside.
right.
Thunder and lightning aren't so frightening. You are what you eat from your head to your feet, and life is rough when you lose your stuff. Amazing titles. Also, Pajama Sam was voiced by Bobby Hill. Just big heads up.
Hell yeah.
Oh.
And so after that, I was like, I had a lot of fun with Pajama Sam. Again, pretty peeved that I didn't get a platinum trophy, but I am kind of in a humongous game mood right now. What could I play next? And I was like, you know what? Back in the day, the other big PC game that I used to play from Humongous Games was Putt Putt Saves the Zoo, which you play as an anthropomorphic purple car that, you're never going to believe this, saves the zoo. So I downloaded that one as well. And I got to say, it was fun to come back to it for nostalgic reasons. But, back in the day, I would play this game and Pajama Sam and many other like PC games on loop and like not really like register one as being like particularly better or longer than the other. And this playthrough made me realize that as much as Pajama Sam is aimed at young kids, Putt Putt is aimed at like even younger kids. Compared to PJ, it's like very short. Puzzles are like almost like non-existent in terms of how difficult they are. There's not much ingenuity to coming up with their solutions. And Putt Putt, the car himself, just has like such a one note and kind of grating personality. Pajama Sam, he's like a 7 or 8 year old. He's able to express a much wider range of emotion from, moments of bravery to understandable fear that continuously move the game's plot forward and just make it interesting. Putt Putt, not quite as interesting, and also no platinum as well. But it was still fun to come back to it for nostalgic reasons.
I have stumbled across a legal nightmare, Alex.
Oh no.
When you mentioned Putt Putt Saves the Zoo, I googled Putt Putt Saves the Zoo, and I see Putt-Putt and that little circle R that means it's the registered trademark. And I say, whoa, that's wild that they were able to do that when Putt Putt is also like mini golf, right? Go to puttputt.com and you see the same thing. Find a putt-putt circle R, also registered trademark in your area. But they are two different properties, two different IPs, both with the same registered trademark. One of them's lying, or they're both right, and one of them needs to be sued. We need to head to Raleigh Road, Suite 410 in Chapel Hill, North Carolina.
To figure it out. I will say, Putt Putt's last game was in 2003, so maybe that trademark is gone, and the new one is for the golf people.
Maybe. Maybe not. Let's go to Chapel Hill just to find out. Great. I'm so glad that you brought that to our attention. And I'm very glad we spent all of that time on Pajama Sam and I discovered Putt Putt and Pajama
I feel
Sam
like
together
you're more invested in this legal battle over the heart and soul of the Putt Putt franchise.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna go to law school tomorrow with Elwoods and say, listen, girl, how do we get Putt Putt in the right hands? I'm not gonna be on either side of history. I just want to make sure it ends up in the right place.
I will say, obviously I'm like jesting and jostling around a little bit with these last two games that I played. Pajama Sam in No Need to Hide When It's Blah Blah Blah. That game legit does, I think, genuinely hold up. I'm not saying that it's on the same level as some of the adventure game greats, but if you're like, you know what? I just want like a small mini adventure game experience from the same creative hearts and minds behind so many of the other adventure game greats, give it a shot. I think you'll be taken by surprise.
Adam, take me through your list of letters here while I look at this article from sems.com. Use of the words Putt Putt in business name leads to trademark infringement suit.
Maybe it
no.
happened. All right. So two things on here. USC Counterforce and Great Houses of Calderia are two indie games that I played. I talked about last week. Those reviews are up on YouTube right now. So go to youtube.com/@respawn-aim-fire. Both of those RAF reviews are up, about 7 minutes apiece. Talking about those two indie games. Pretty cool. Check them out. Next thing, I'll do that one last. What is this? Don't you hate when you write a thing
and you don't remember what's there? Yep.
Remember what it is. Cyberpunk, Edge Runners. Continue to watch it. I have one episode left. Pretty cool anime. I don't like anime, but I like that one. I guess the big thing I did this week was I watched all of Twisted Metal in one day.
Oh, and you lived to
did it,
say your
everybody.
feelings about it.
I did, yes. So Twisted Metal came out on Peacock Thursday, July, whatever that day was. And I happened to be off that day because I'd made the joke. Like, I have Peacock. They're putting them all on one day. I'm going to see if I can get through this. And I happened to be off that day. And then I watched the entire series. And it is good. It's really weird.
Hell
it really
yeah.
works.
What?
Because, again, I wouldn't do it with, like, negative expectations. I'm like, this is going to be absolute garbage. And it is what it is, right? It's super campy and super, like, over, like, it's a twist. They're making a Twisted Metal TV show. Like, what do you expect? But all the actors are good. I enjoy the story. It's strangely heartfelt. It's like, what? You guys have emotions in this Twisted Metal fucking bullshit? And,
Okay.
and I will say I'm probably not more excited for a season 2 going in than, coming out. Like, I was like, oh shit, I really want season 2 now. It is surprisingly like very fun and watchable. And it's like
Okay.
10, 30-minute episodes or something like that. It's really easy to get through. Anthony Mackie's great. Look, all the characters are great, literally. Like Anthony Mackie, Sweet Tooth, Will Arnett is the voice, Samoa Joe is the body, is great. Stephanie Beatriz is great. Thomas Hayden Church, like everybody is good. There's a surprise character who plays Preacher, and I was like, perfect casting. Literally no notes. That's perfect. That's a fun surprise. It's just really good and really fun. It's a road trip movie, and there are people fight and get stabbed and shoot each other and then fight in cars. I don't know. No notes.
Is there
No
a
notes. I love it.
blink twice on camera if there's a scene at the end where fuck. I was about to just launch into a really corny joke and I couldn't even pronounce the name of Parappa the Rapper. Is there a scene, blink twice, if there's a scene at the end where Parappa the Rapper, I shouldn't have gone with that character, I should have gone with anyone else, where he comes up and says, hey, Anthony Mackie, I'd like to talk to you about the Station All-Stars Initiative.
No, actually, I would say the ending is actually cooler than that for sure.
Whoa. Shit.
Similar-ish idea, but I think it's actually like, I was like, oh shit, that'll actually be cool. I want to see that.
Blink twice if there's a scene in the movie where someone steps out of their car after it's been destroyed and they go, man, this metal is twisted.
No. They do the line where someone's like,
Dude.
again, it's the very end of the show, like, hey, there's going to be carnage, there's going to be a lot of twisted metal. And I was like, oh, they said it.
Oh, they said the name.
But Anthony Mackie's so fun and so goofy. Him and Stephanie Beatriz have a really good chemistry. There is a sex scene in a ball pit.
Oh, shit.
Oh.
Have fun with that.
Oh.
It's very raunchy. It's very adult. It's made for so Anthony Mackie, of course, John Doe, he's driving his car around, which actually becomes one of the cars in the game, which is cool. And his whole thing is like, the world went to shit in 2003 or something. So it's like, it's a bunch of 90s / early 2000s music. And it's like, this show is literally made for 30-year-olds who were playing the Twisted Metal in the late 90s and the early 2000s. Like, that's what the show is made for, because it's adult, and then all the references are music from that era. So I think it worked.
Hell yeah.
Okay.
Blink twice.
You sold me on it.
Blink twice. We're just going to keep you blinking all day if they play I'm Blue by Eiffel 65 at any point during the show.
No, they don't.
Damn.
I will. You know what's really weird? I remember because in the preview they showed us the casino scene with Sweet Tooth and Anthony Mackie, and they were playing the thong song or whatever. Really weird scene, really cringy, and made no sense out of context. I think it's probably the worst scene that they could have ever showed, because it's probably the most cringy scene in the entire series. Everything else, again, it's campy, it's over the top, but I'm like, why did they pick this? This is literally the worst scene from the first episode. I don't know. The show's actually fun.
How many episodes is it? 400?
10.
26? 10?
10 30-minute episodes.
All right.
So about 5 hours to finish it up.
Blink twice if there are actually 11 episodes.
No, there are not 11 episodes. You want to blink twice about something else?
Blink twice and also say the name of the next game out loud while you blink.
I can't do that. There's no more games. The last thing I'm going to say is, I'm not going to announce what it is, but if you look on the website, you can find it out. I'm waiting for someone to do an official announcement, but I confirmed to be at PAX West.
Oh, shit.
It is Labor Day weekend. early September, like the first weekend of September. If you look on the website, my name's on there.
Oh,
But
shit.
I'm waiting for that person to officially announce it before I say anything else. But if you're going to be in Seattle at PAX West, hit me up. Let me know. Let's hang out.
I announced
for
this
it.
on Twitter/X as well. /X. That sounds so dirty. But I'm going to be in town in Toronto for Toronto Fan Expo on August 26th. Not as a presenter or like person of interest, but just hanging out. Come say hi.
I forgot
Coming
to
out.
announce
Chad, where you gonna
this. I'm going to be in San Jose, California at Safeway on Friday going grocery shopping.
Ooh.
So,
Ooh.
to the Safeway in
meet
San
up?
Jose, the one Safeway. Just kidding, there were like 45. Not the shitty one by Santana Row and Valley Fair Mall. Like, that's the worst Safeway that's ever existed. Don't meet me there.
On August
that's
24th,
it.
I'm actually going to be attending Festival de la Poutine in Montreal, which is one of Montreal's 3 annual poutine fests, because we can't have one, we can't have 2, gotta have 3.
Is that everything you did, Adam?
Yeah, that's it.
I wrote W on here for wedding, but I don't remember why I wanted to talk about the wedding. I already said something about the wedding. Oh, here's the thing. Everyone get tattoos. Get tattoos of your favorite games, because I went to a wedding this weekend, and first of all, it was dope. And we walked down the aisle to the Jurassic World or the Jurassic Park theme song played by an orchestra.
I love that.
And the groom did a toast straight out of Final Fantasy III, and all of his nerdy friends who were there knew how to end the toast with him too. And it was great. It was fantastic. But I was a man of honor and the maid of honor. We had a of honor thing for my friend Jesse. And the maid of honor is super dope. Started hanging out. Her husband was there. Turns out also super dope. Listening to our podcast today, literally today, texted me, what's the link to the thing? I'm listening to it right now.
Oh,
And he
shit.
saw my tattoo, and he's like, is that the Traveler? And I said, fuck yeah, it's the Traveler. Let's talk Destiny. And now we're best friends. So everyone go get
Wow.
tattoos and put all of your favorite games on your face, and then that's how you'll make real life friends.
On your face and your body. There you go.
On your face and your body, Papa John's. I'm going to talk about the bottom 2 and then the other one. Final Fantasy 16, everybody. I beat it. Your boy beat it.
Yeah.
I beat the game, did every single side quest, had a ton of fun with this game. I am absolutely going to go back and do New Game Plus on Final Fantasy difficulty for the Platinum Trophy. I think the only trophies I have left are to do that New Game Plus run, which is apparently only takes like 10 to 15 hours. And then I have to do these time trial challenges that I didn't even know existed until after I beat the game. I was like, oh, shit, okay, gonna do those. It is such... I'm not going to do like a legit review for this thing, so I'll just say a couple of things about it right now. It is an incredible game. It is maybe my favorite Final Fantasy game. I don't know yet. I'm going to go back and replay a bunch of other Final Fantasies sometime in the next 2 years. But this is maybe my Final Fantasy favorite game. But weirdly enough, like somehow that also, I can't see it being game of the year. I think it's incredible. I think it's got a great story. I think all of the heavy story shit, all of the stuff that's really going to get you roped in happens actually kind of in the first third of the game. And then the rest of it out from there on is like, it's cool, but it doesn't like blow your mind like the first third of the game does. But I'm very, very, very happy with that game. But there's like, if this came out in the year that Sekiro won Game of the Year, this would absolutely beat it. And this would beat everything else that released that year.
For sure.
But there's just so much shit that's coming out this year that's amazing that I just can't see this winning Game of the Year at all. Which is wild. But I love it.
Interesting.
Crazy here, man.
Yeah.
Blink twice if I'm Blue by Eiffel 65 is played in the game.
You didn't tell me how close together the blinks had to be. So are 2 of those close enough together to tell you yes? I don't know.
Nobody
The bottom one here, y'all. Guess who beat Destiny? This guy.
Oh yeah, that's right. Audrey did it for you, right?
Yeah, no, fuck you. I know I say this every other week that I beat Destiny and did something else, but this is literally I beat Destiny. This is the only thing in this entire game that I have not done is beat Trials of Osiris. Actually, I don't even know why I wrote TOS. It should just be TOO.
do that every time, by the way. You
Do I
always
really?
put TOS. Yeah, you do.
Osiris, like Charlie's the restaurant.
Chad is a
Apostrophe
huge
Cyrus.
fan of the terms of service. Whenever
Yeah,
he
terms
boots
of
up the
service.
game and the terms of service are present, he just reads through the entirety of it from front to back.
So, Audrey, I talked about this last week, fucking going flawless, showing us up, being dope and amazing at this game. While I'm at this wedding this weekend, texts all of us a picture. Did it again. I was like, you son of a bitch. And so then on my flight home, I was Googling, what are the best times to play Trials of Osiris so that all the shitty people are on and all the good people have gone to bed? Like, what's the best time zone and time? And it turns out that it was Sunday nights after the East Coast goes to bed. And I was like, God damn it. I woke up so early. We partied so late. And then I slept, but I didn't get great sleep because everyone else was till 4. And then I get home and I'm like, I have to keep playing tonight. I have to continue to stay up and play Trials of Osiris because this is my only opportunity to actually win one of these things. And went to go flawless means you have to play 7 matches of like hardcore PvP Destiny stuff without losing. And there is a specific card you can get that says, hey, we'll forgive 1 loss. So you can actually go 8 with 1 loss in there. Or if it's your first time going flawless that week, it now does 2 losses. So it forgives 2. So I got all the way up to 6 on my first round and then lost 3 in a row and fucking wanted to die. And I texted the group, Trials is the fucking worst. I hate it. And then I was like, we've got 1 hour left till I really have to like actually go to bed. Jump back in there. Got all the way through, only lost 1 time, went flawless, and I texted, Trials is the fucking coolest. And I have so many amazing pictures of me up in this lighthouse, getting cool gear, adept versions of shit, a shader that makes me look gold as hell. It's so cool. I'm the best now. So that was
Gold as
literally
hell.
the thing that I thought I would never do. Even the things that I've paid people in China and Korea to do for me, I have since done myself. But this was the one where I was like, nope, I'm going to have to, I suck at PvP so bad, but I wrote a lot of coattails. The trick is to go in with randos. Like, have it matchmake you with randos instead of going in with the fire team, because Audrey and Jerica and I went in together, and they're like, oh, you're 3 people who are all on the same fire team, and you're all on mic together. Therefore, you're probably good. We're going to match you up with other people who are also all on the same fire team and also have a mic. So that was a mistake. Anyway, beat it. The next thing, this is like, it's going to be a little bit of a soapbox moment, a little bit of a different thing, but I wanted to talk about it on here because no one ever talked about it in anything that I listened to. R stands for Ritalin. 2 weeks ago, I got diagnosed with ADHD, and it's something that, like, obviously, I've known that my whole life, that I probably have ADHD, and I'm sure everyone
Yes.
who's ever listened to this podcast is like, yeah, Chad has ADHD. But it started becoming, like, an issue, especially during the pandemic, with like doing things and getting my work done, especially if it's like has to be focused work and even like things around the house, like, oh, I've got to go get this treat for my dog, and I walk to the kitchen to get the treat, and then on the way I like pick up this other thing, and I was like, oh shit, I got to go put this away, and then I do 5 other tasks, and then 10 minutes later I'm sitting on the couch with a weird thing in my hand and my dog never got a treat, and I'm like, what the fuck? What is going on? So I finally like, all right, I'm gonna do something about it. And I've always been scared my whole life because of, I don't know whether it was just a 90s thing that people were terrified of medication and stuff like that. But I
thought Ritalin was illegal. Or am I thinking of another medicine?
it's a highly controlled
Adderall.
substance. It's
I
highly
think
controlled.
Adderall is a big
Adderall
problem,
is
right?
also another medication
That's what I'm
for
thinking.
ADHD too. But yeah, as a kid growing up, and like the misconception I had around medication this whole time was just like, oh, this is gonna like turn me into a zombie, and it's gonna suppress my creativity, and I'm not gonna be the same person. I'm just gonna be like this drone going through life, having great attention and focus, but then not have my like actual self and personality. And that's just like what I assumed. And in fact, when I told my best friend about it, I was like, hey, I got diagnosed with ADHD. I'm actually kind of excited to try this medication and do something about it. He did the same thing. He's like, fuck that. No, my 2nd grade teacher said you need ADHD medication. And my mom was like, no, he's perfect the way he is. I was like, yeah, that's kind of how I reacted my whole life. Anyway, it turns out you can do things with modern medicine and science, and it makes things wonderful and amazing. And it's changing my life. So if you're one of those people, the problem is I see a lot of content online, especially on Twitter, from friends like, oh, this means if you do this, that means you probably have ADHD, or this is what living with ADHD is like. But nobody ever's like, oh, this is what it looks like when you actually take Ritalin and your ADHD isn't affecting you anymore. And it's like, oh, that's what I want. I know that I'm fucked up already. I want the focus.
Tell me about the drugs.
So yeah, take the
good stuff.
Chad,
Anyway,
I
long
don't.
story short,
Go ahead.
yes. Sorry, go ahead, Alex.
I don't mean to, make light of you talking about this, but I do want to ask, when you see people on Twitter being like, oh man, check out this picture of like a rotating rat with music playing, and this is like what it feels like to be on ADHD. Do you relate to those at all?
I don't know. When you say rotating rat, I feel like I'm looking at it like a rotisserie chicken. I don't know if that's.
I
what
guess
it feels
we don't frequent the same accounts on Twitter in that case. But anyways,
no, the way that I've been describing how this medication like changes things for me so far is like, instead of having like 12 thoughts going through my brain at any one time, I now have like 2, and I can, instead of having them overlap, like I can finish one thought or finish an act. Like I can. The other day, I was like, all right, I've got this thing on my desk, and I have to bring it to the sink in the bathroom. It was like, I got up, walked, put it on the bathroom sink, and I was like, holy shit. I followed through with that whole action, and I was cognizant and aware of it the entire time, and I was focused on doing that thing, and then I did it. And then my brain was like, cool, what do we do next? It's like, that's what it's like to think clearly and think without all that distraction going on. So it's been really great to be able to focus on things. And I'll tell you the difference between watching a TV show with and without it, holy shit. I watched a TV show in the morning, the first morning that I took Ritalin, and I was like, I am super invested. It was a show that I'm already invested in, but I was like, I am sucked into this thing. I'm watching it, paying attention. I'm with these characters. And then the medication wears off after like 3 hours, and I can choose, like, do I need to continue taking it the rest of the day? Like, do I need to get shit done, or can I just not? And then I watched another episode later that evening without it, and I was like, I literally had to rewind the show like 7 times. Because I was like, oh, I texted somebody, or I was thinking about soup, or I was like looking off in the distance, or my dog, and it was like, and I was just constantly like, shit, I missed something in the show. Let me rewind 30 seconds. Oh shit, I missed what they were talking about again, and I have to rewind the same 30 seconds. So it's anyway. I'm excited for what this might do. I have not played a video game yet with Ritalin, and I'm thinking like maybe this is why I don't enjoy reading, and I can't focus on reading, and maybe this is why I fell asleep during coffee talk. And maybe I can actually enjoy these games that I previously hadn't held my attention and hadn't done anything for me.
Are you suggesting you're going to have good taste in video games now?
Maybe. And if you're one of those people who's like, yeah, right, it's not affecting your personality. I'm on Ritalin right now, bitches. I just took another one an hour and a half ago. So I'm still the same old Chad. I'm wearing adult diapers right now, and you can't even tell.
Oh shit.
So yeah. I'm really into this. I'm excited to like continue to. My psychiatrist and I are still like playing around with dosage and figuring out what's the best dosage and timing and all that kind of stuff. So it's exciting for me, and I'm pumped to see what that might do to how I play video games. And if you're somebody who's like, oh, I'm curious about it, like reach out to me on Twitter. I'm happy to talk more about my experience, because again, they're like. I was like super nervous and kind of embarrassed to even think about going to get treatment for it, because I grew up honestly with a mom who made fun of people who took medication, and I was like, that's what I just assume people are who take medication now. So I'm glad I put that behind me and got help. It's cool. Get help, y'all.
There's a lot of that in the early 90s, 80s and stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, medicine, what am I, a drug addict? It's like, you have IBS, you need it.
And there's a difference between medication like subscription pain medication for and like balancing the chemicals in your brain. Like there's definitely a difference there. Like I understand the hesitance around taking prescription pain meds for certain things, and the challenge of getting addicted and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, cool shit. And with that, let's move on to our quest log.
Well, what was the W?
It was wedding.
Wedding. I thought it was weed.
weed.
Continue.
The nerdy MMO comes to Xbox. Comes from Blocker of Holden, Rebecca Valentine on IGN. Final Fantasy XIV. That's right. The game that came out 1 trillion years ago and got reborn into a new realm is at last coming to Xbox consoles. During Final Fantasy Fan Fest 2023, Phil Spencer made a surprise appearance at the end of the keynote to announce the news. He spoke about his own enjoyment of the game, as well as the close collaboration between Xbox and Square Enix to make the game the best it can be on the console. The Xbox Series X and S versions of Final Fantasy XIV will come with faster loading and 4K support on the Xbox Series X. It is currently planned for release in spring of 2024. Open beta scheduled for patch 6.5, whatever that means. This means that the upcoming new expansion, Dawn Trail, which is like whenever you wake up in the morning and your happy trail is back, even though you buzzed it off the other day, will be playable. Yeah, that's a Dawn Trail because it happens in the morning. Dawn, get it? Will be playable on Xbox when it launches in summer of 2024. Of course, the Xbox release will feature cross-platform play, meaning you can pick up your existing accounts on Xbox and play with others on PC and PS5. You'll need to purchase a copy of the game separately on Xbox to play.
Chad, as the resident Final Fantasy aficionado, what's your level of experience with this game?
0.
Really?
I have 0 experience with... Here's the thing. This was a thing growing up as a kid, too, which is why I never played World of Warcraft. Anything that requires a subscription to play the game is something I've never dipped my toe into. Which is why I didn't even play Xbox Live much as a kid on regular Xbox, unless I got like a free code with something. So, I do not have any experience with Final Fantasy 11 or 14, which are the 2 MMOs in the series.
I played like a sum total of like 2 hours of this game back in the day because me and a couple of the people on one of these secret Discords I'm a part of were like, hey man, maybe we should really get into Final Fantasy 14. And I got into it, kind of enjoyed my time with it, but then everybody else moved on because we couldn't really decide what we all wanted to commit to. So I never played it much beyond that. The game, looks good. It seems like it's one of those games now that can't lose. Like every time they come out with a new expansion, it's like, oh yeah, this is the best one yet. This one has so much content to offer. But like, I don't see myself ever getting into it.
No, I don't either. This is cool for me, honestly. Well, actually, it's not cool for me because I already play on PlayStation where all this shit already lives. But it's cool to me that this is coming because they also kind of announced that like this is the start of a new partnership. And so I'm hoping that this means in the future we might end up with Final Fantasy VII Remake on Xbox. We might end up with Final Fantasy 16 on Xbox, and maybe even future installments launching day and date so that a lot more people can actually play these games, which can be pretty cool. But Final Fantasy 14, always, I mean, it's a great step. And apparently that game is like fucking huge. People play the shit all the time. Like everyone, this is a very large player base for this. Yeah. I just don't have room in my life for Destiny and another MMO.
Yeah, multiple MMOs. I will say the last thing is because for those who play Fantasy Critic League, whenever you're drafting next year, maybe keep an eye out on Dawn Trail because those FF14 expansions review very well and are draftable in a lot of the leagues. I actually had this one. It was unannounced FF14 expansion, but now it got pushed to next year, so I had to drop it. But keep an eye out for that. And of course, cool to have more games, more places. And of course, crossplay, because it don't even bother if it doesn't have crossplay.
Speaking of bad bets that Adam made, Adam may lose another bet. Tom Ivan at VGC says, Sony has announced August's first PlayStation Plus game catalog title. And I can tell you got this from a European site because there's a U in catalog.
Yeah.
Sabotage Studios' retro-inspired turn-based RPG Sea of Stars will join the subscription service at launch. Sea of Stars will be released for PC, Switch, PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X, and Xbox Series S on August 29th. This is a quote. Sea of Stars is a turn-based RPG inspired by the classics, according to the developer. It tells the story of 2 children of the solstice who will combine the powers of the sun and moon to perform eclipse magic, the only force capable of fending off the monstrous creations of the evil alchemist known as the Fleshmancer.
Ugh.
Unlike PlayStation Plus Essential games, which are, you get the free monthly games as part of PlayStation Plus, game catalogs, downloadable PS4 and PS5 titles are only if you pay the extra and premium tier prices. This game is something that I honestly forgot existed and didn't even realize was a thing until I heard about it. I was listening to Easy Allies the other day, and they're like, Sea of Stars is, I forget what they call it now. Like it used to be Pop-Tart and Toaster Strudel. But,
Is that how they talk in
Pop-Tart
that
is the
show?
good one.
I've listened to some of their podcasts.
Sea of
Sea of
Stars.
Stars is
Yeah, that's
one
my
of the
Michael
best
Huber impression.
games ever.
Sea of
You
Stars
guys,
is my Pop-Tart. I am so freaking pumped for this game. Now, it looks exactly like this beautiful watercolor, like almost Chrono Trigger pixel art on it. It just, I'm looking at this game again and then
wait a
seeing what
minute.
it is and the inspiration for it.
oh,
This
is
game
this the
looks
one from
so
the?
good.
It's by the Messenger people.
Yeah, that's it. Okay, yeah.
And it is
I know
in
what
the
this game
Messenger
is.
universe apparently too.
Whoa.
And it's
Yeah.
on every subscription service known to man as well.
Yeah,
it's also on
it's-
Game Pass as well as
Yeah.
these tiers for PlayStation.
Parappa the Rapper is
dope.
going to show up at the end and be like,
Oh
hey,
boy.
are you ready to join the PlayStation All-Stars Initiative? We got Anthony Mackie. He's already signed up.
He's great.
So Adam, I know you're keeping track of this in your brain because you made the bet, but is this the very first one that's been announced day and date for extra and premium tier?
No,
this the
so
second?
I need to go back and double check. I think my bet at the beginning of the year, I said that they weren't going to pay too much attention to. Last year was Stray. Stray was the only one that
Right.
came into the extra tier. And I said this year there are going to be 3 or less. I think I'll have to go back and listen to make sure.
Yeah.
I believe if I'm doing my
There's
math
Chia.
right,
Chia was one.
this Chia. I think there's another one. So this is either 2 or 3. So I'm right at that line where my bet's not going to count anymore. But it's fine because I think this is going to be one of the best indie games of the year. So that's cool. Everyone play this game for free if you have all of those services, or just buy it because it looks awesome. Like it looks like Chrono Trigger, modern day Chrono Trigger. But I think we either doubled or tripled the amount that they did last year. So good on them for
That's
putting
true.
games day and date in there. So there's
Proud of you,
that. I know
PlayStation.
Chia's definitely one. I feel like there's another, and then this will be 3, or maybe it's 2.
I oftentimes forget, like, what the fuck am I even paying the premium tier for versus extra? And then I remember, oh yeah, it's the retro shit. Like, it's all the classics that you can play with that one, which includes, just in time for the TV show this week, Twisted Metal 1 and 2 for PlayStation, both of which have a platinum trophy for the first time too.
Oh
that
yeah,
wraps
on
up
the
our-
old Twisted Metals. Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That wraps up our quest log and brings us to our segment from Adam, segment from Adam. I love you. That was Peaches from Mario
Yes, I
Brothers movie.
do, baby. I love you. This week we're gonna do segment from Adam. We're talking about the best games of the month because it is literally the last day of the month as we're recording this. Number 1 on the list, a game for babies, Pikmin 4 and an 87. No, I'm just playing. People I just don't like Pikmin because there's time limits and I can't stand that. But
Did
Pikmin 4,
you-
87.
Real quick, like, which Pikmin games did you play back in the day?
I've played 1 and 3, I want to say.
Okay.
I played Super Smash Bros. And he was terrible in that game.
Almar's pretty good in that game.
He's
Did the Warlock
interesting. He's like, I feel like by like Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, Sakurai really figured out how to do those sorts of like gimmicky fighters. But I feel like Olimar was developed a little bit too early when they hadn't totally figured out like how do we make a different, quote unquote, different Smash Bros. Character feel good. Anyways,
All right, next up is Oxenfree 2 at an 85. Ollie Oxenfree 2, that Netflix game. It's also, well, I know it's free through
Oh, that's
Netflix,
right. Is it
but
a
I think
Netflix game now? That's right.
yeah, they own the Night School. Number 3, Viewfinder at an 84. That's the game where you take the picture and put it in the real world and move around.
right.
Oh,
and it goes
yeah.
into the
Yeah.
Yeah. Remnant 2 at an 80, which everyone is loving apparently. They're like super fun co-op game, shoot the bad guys, procedurally generated world's cool. And Venba at an 80, the game where you cook and learn about that kid's backstory. That game came out today, I think. So
Adam, do you think that us Respawn Aim Fire people might be tangling with Venba at some point in the near future?
maybe so. Is it going to go on a potential barf poll? Absolutely, not a doubt.
Ooh, you heard it here first.
There we go.
Ooh-wee. Chicken cheese
And that's
tender
it.
biscuit. I am Oxenfree 2 is something that intrigues me. I played Oxenfree 1 and liked it a ton. And it's a very like narrative, lots of talking kind of thing too. So maybe now with Ritalin, this will be a good kind of test for me to see how much I can pay attention
yeah.
to this game. But Remnant 2 is one that I really want to frickin' play. But that's the game that I said a couple weeks ago. as the reviews are starting to come out, that I texted the group, as like, hey, let's all find each other in a future life and play this game together, because we're never going to have time to.
Yeah.
Because I just don't have time to play it. I got Destiny.
It's cool though.
I got Moonlighter. I got Final Fantasy Theater Rhythm, Final Bar Line.
Yeah, here we go with all the Final Fantasy games. But yeah, I think for me, for end of year stuff, I'd have to.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's coming up. I think Oxenfree 2 for sure, and then if Venba wins that poll, then again, Pikmin, I'm sure it's good. I just don't care about Pikmin. Viewfinder, I've heard good things, but it's also like very short, and I heard it does like it's better at the beginning than at the end, and it's pretty short. So it's like it's fine. I'm like, all right, I'll probably skip out. That's it for the month. Not super big. There's been some months where it's been like 10 things on this list, but this month a little bit shorter.
Totally honest, I'm totally happy that things really slowed down. I loved visiting Europe. My one very, very selfish regret that I had to go to Europe is that I didn't get to spend time at home, because it seems like this month was a really good month to just lounge out and like catch up on games that you wanted to catch up on earlier in the year. But maybe that'll be that way in August as well.
Yep, we'll see. Lots of good shit coming out towards the end of August and the beginning of September. Adam, you're talking. What is it? 3 days? 3 days to Baldur's Gate 3?
Yeah, it's Thursday evening or something like that.
Oh shit! And then Adam's never going to be here ever again.
Nope. I might show up in a daze once in a while, but probably not. That'll be my life.
Well, that takes us to Game On Game Show. The Game On Our Gaming Show, we play a game called Game On, the gaming show on our game show. Game. We are playing another installment. This one is called Is Super Mario Bros. Good? So this is a game that we play every once in a while when there's something new coming out that we're like, hey, let's take a look back at the history of this franchise and see how it's traditionally scored to figure out if it's like, do people really like this or not? So this one, I was starting to think today about my... like, what could dethrone Final Fantasy 16 as Game of the Year? And I was like, oh, that's right. Super Mario Bros. Wonder. Is that the end of the title? Is it just Wonder? Is it Wonderment? Or one? I think it's just Wonder. It's like, that's coming out this year. And I was like, wait a minute. Is that ever really a Game of the Year contender? 2D platforming Super Mario games? And so that got me thinking. Let's go back and look at the Metacritic of Super Mario Bros. 2D platformer mainline console games. So, there are obviously a ton of Super Mario Bros. Games, so in order to keep it manageable, we have 6 games here in the mainline Super Mario Bros. 2D platformers on home console. So this does not include like 2DS or 3DS and Game Boy games. So we're going to go through these. I have the Metacritic scores, or obviously lots of these games exist before Metacritic existed and review scores really existed. So for those, there are a lot of outlets like IGN and GameSpot and Game Informer that did like retroactive reviews of these games in the past, like in the early 2000s. And Wikipedia has an aggregate score on game rankings for those. So that's so technically they are not pure Metacritic ratings, they are aggregates of retroactive reviews of these things. So keep that in mind as you're guessing. But I'm going to take you through these 6. I'm going to tell you what game it is, where it launched, and what year, and you're just going to guess what did it score on Metacritic, and we'll see which of you is closest to figuring out how well these usually score. We're going to start with Adam, because he's leftmost on my screen. And Adam, we're going to start back in the early days in 1985 with Super Mario Bros. Mm-hmm. Not even alive. What do you think the retroactive aggregate score on game rankings was of the future reviews going backwards 20 years and looking at this game?
See, this is rough because it's like, obviously it was a huge game that helped like launch like an entire generation of video games, but like what would the reviews for that be, you know?
Right.
I'm just going to guess 90. I'm just going to just flat 90. We'll see how close we get. I don't know.
All right. Alex, what's your guess?
Adam literally took the answer right out of my mouth. Obviously, this game is...
You can both guess 90. That's fine.
Incomparable in terms of its, influence on the landscape of video games as we know it. But I feel like back in the day, people would have been a little bit tough on it because... there were a lot of other options back in the day on the NES of, games of like similar levels of quality. I feel like people back in the day wouldn't have been like, well, we have to give this game a 10 out of 10 because of how influential it's going to be looked back on as being in the future. I'm going to go with a 91.
91. All right. The official aggregate score from Game Rankings 20 years in the future is 86.
Okay.
86. Okay. So, Adam, you were closest with 90. So you are now 1 point apart from each other. Alex, you can make up some ground here in round 2 with Super Mario Bros. 2. This is the US release of Super Mario Bros. 2 in 1988 on the NES.
I'm going to go with a flat 81. That game obviously has a very particular reputation because it's a decent game, but it's also definitely not what people wanted coming off of Super Mario Bros. 1. But I also don't feel like back in the day, kids were smart enough to realize, you replaced it with something completely different. It's a completely different Arabian-themed game. I don't think people were that tough on it. 81.
All right. Adam?
83.
And the official score is 81.
Ooh,
81.
There you go.
There you go.
So, Alex, you have caught back up. You are now leading by 1 point. Adam, Super Mario Bros. 3 released in the same year, 1988, as
Really?
Super Mario Bros. 2.
Interesting.
Yeah. What do you think the 20 years later retroactive score looking back on this game was from GameRankings.com, the aggregate score from IGN, GameSpot, Game Informer, etc.?
I'm going to go better than 2. Maybe 1 has so much nostalgia to it. I'm going to say 85.
Alex, you're up.
I'm going to go with I'm going to highball it a little bit. I'm going to go with a 92.
92. Well, I'll let you know that before I decided on using the Game Rankings aggregate score, I decided I would use the GBA remakes of these things as my thing instead. The unfortunate thing was Super Mario Bros. 2 never came out as a GBA remake, so I couldn't do that. But the GBA remake of this game got a 94. The aggregate Game Ranking score is a 98.
Ooh.
Making it an incredibly high game on the scale.
Holy shit.
And Alex, you now your lead is pretty enormous right now.
I feel like
over Adam right now.
If I can kind of like send some logic into that game receiving such great review scores back in the day, I think one, people were really happy to like be back to a traditional Mario experience after the deviation that was 2. But I also feel like going into 3, there was like a lot of hype. Super Mario Bros. 1, like infamously kind of just showed up on store shelves in 1985. Like people literally don't even know what the street date of that game was. Super Mario Bros. 2, again, there's the issue of it being kind of different. I feel like with 3, like that was a game that people were actually anticipating and really looking forward to. And I feel like that probably contributed to it being as highly reviewed as it is.
2 years later, 1990. Adam, Super Mario World for the Super Nintendo. This one
98.
actually, from here on out, they are actually Metacritic.
These are actual Metacritic critics.
Yep.
I'm going to say 97 then.
All right, Alex.
I'm going to go with a 95.
The Metacritic score for Super Mario World is 94.
Ooh.
94. So very close, Alex. You are now 10 points ahead. Fast forward 16 years before we get our next home console 2D Mario platforming game with New Super Mario Bros. Wii in 2006 on the Nintendo Wii. Alex, what's your guess?
I remember back in the day that this game, like, it was still during that period of time where, like, the idea of getting new 2D Mario games was like still fairly novel. We weren't all over it, but I remember this game having a lot of backlash surrounding it. It was like the one Wii game of note from Nintendo's first party studios that came out like for the console that fall. I also remember people being a little bit miffed over the fact that like you couldn't play as Princess Peach or Daisy or any other like female characters. Instead, you had those like two generic Toads, and everyone was like,
Yeah.
What's going on here?"
Hello.
As it stands, I remember the game being reviewed well, but I don't feel like it utterly just bedazzled critics. So I'm going to give it an 84.
84 from Alex Kozina. Adam, what you got?
We're going to go with an 88 because that's two infinities next to each other.
Nice. Or two pairs of boobs.
Oh,
Or a couple of butts bumping.
There you go.
The actual Metacritic score for new Super Mario Bros. Wii is an 87.
Okay.
So, Adam, you made up a little bit of ground there. You're now only 8 points behind. Let's make that up here completely with your guess for 2012's new Super Mario Bros. U on the Nintendo Wii U. This is the final game in the 2D platforming game before Mario Bros. Wonder comes out.
You people hate Wii U, so that means I'm gonna fuck. It's definitely not as high. I'm gonna say 84.
All right, Alex.
Weirdly enough, even though I feel like by that point people were really over the like new Super Mario Bros. Aesthetic line of games, I feel like that game actually reviewed better than the Wii game. I'm gonna give it I'm gonna eye a 93.
93. You all. The final score for this entire game right now differs by 1 point.
Shit.
There is 1 point difference. The Metacritic score for new Super Mario Bros. U is an 84. Meaning the difference in points that Adam has is 23, beating Alex's by 1 point of 24. Lower is better on this scale. So, Adam, you just cemented your victory there at the end with a guess of right on at 84.
I guess, like, I feel like, I wonder if with Super Mario Bros. Wii U, it's like, it's a thing where, like, I feel like nowadays, in retrospect, everybody looks back on it fondly. You know what? The game was recently released on the Switch. Like, it was released on the Switch like a couple of years ago. I bet like that version of the game kind of messed with my mind because I remember that port of it being reviewed well. I remember a lot of people coming out of the woodwork being like, you know what, we kind of gave this one a bit of a you know, a poor impression first time around. This is actually pretty good.
I wouldn't be shocked if the Switch port is like an 89 or an 88 or something like that.
Can you check that, chat?
I would not be shocked.
I'm going to check it up right now. Metacritic, new Super Mario Bros. Wii U Deluxe. What is the score for that
You could just go on
game?
Metacritic.
And make sure it isn't the one from the Wii U, but the Switch port. Did it get better? Let's see. The score is an 80.
Oh, really?
It got worse.
Wow. Okay.
That's a little shocking.
Incorrect.
I thought it was definitely higher.
In general, the average score of these 2D Mario platformers for home console comes to about an 88.3 repeating. Adam, you were closest to that number with an 87.83 repeating. Alex, you were one whole digit above at 89.3 repeating. So generally, we were pretty close.
I know we're going pretty long in the podcast. Can you take one more trip to Metacritic to check the score for the DS new Super Mario Bros. Game? Because, like, I know that's not a
new Super Mario Bros. You want the first one or the second one?
The first one, the original one, the one that kicked off the new. Because
Mario
even though that
Bros.
game's a not mobile game, even though that's a portable game, I kind of consider it part of the lineage of like the mainline 2D games because it kicked off that
for fun.
Yeah.
For fun, this came out actually. This was 3 years before the Wii version of the game, so like this was 2D Mario. What do you guys think? What do you guys think the DS game, New Super Mario Bros. Scored? This won't factor into your scores.
Yeah, I was going to say 88.
It is an 89.
Okay.
There we go.
What do you think New Super Mario Bros. 2 on the 3DS in 2012 did?
I'm going to say 84.
86.
That's a 78. That's a stinker.
Oh.
Certified
Wow.
stinker.
They hated it.
Those scores are interesting because, like, I played all the 2D New Super Mario Bros. Games except for U, and like the first one on the DS. Like, it's cool that they brought 2D Mario back, but that game's a little bit. It lacks that special sauce compared to a lot of the games that follow. The 3DS one, New Super Mario Bros. 2, the one with all the golden coins and gold stuff, that one actually pretty solid, but I think people were just really not into it because that came out the same year as U. And I think people were like, all right, enough with the new aesthetic. We're completely over this.
Yeah, you're right. They did come out in the same year, 2012. And that's it for Game on Game Show, and that's it for episode 318 of Respawn Aim Fire. Thanks for everyone for listening. Here's a couple of announcements. One, get your homework on patreon.com/respawnaimfire. Very shortly, we will be putting up is what I just said. We'll be putting up a poll for our next BARF game. That's Backlog Accomplishment with Respawn and Friends. It's where you tell us what game you want us to play during the month of August. That poll will go up. We will announce the winner of that poll on Sunday, I believe, when we record the BARF episode for Moonlighter. So go vote on patreon.com/respawnaimfire. Your vote counts a lot more there than it does on x.com or on xtube.com or on xvideos.com. So don't go to those places necessarily. But patreon.com/respawnaimfire is a place to go. You can also go there to get, very shortly after you're hearing this on demand, probably in like the next day, a brand new episode of our RAF game shows. This one being Pitch Perfect is the second installment that we did this month. We recorded this with Asa Gray, the 5-star man, and it's not Asa. It's not Asa, but it is Asa. And I already forgot her name. I'm so sorry, Adam. Will you? Who's the second guest? Who?
Erica
from Isle of Misfit Rolls. So go check that one out on patreon.com/respawnaimfire. That'll be exclusive there for the month of August. And if you're one of those people that just hates us and doesn't want to throw us any dollars, you get a free one that other people have been able to listen to starting on August 1st, the day this drops. That is the first installment of Pitch Perfect, the one with Trevor and the one with Mike. Isle of Misfit Rolls. The one that almost gave me a freaking aneurysm. Go check that one out. Free on youtube.com/@respawnaimfire. And thank you, Alex, for being here as our RAF regular, as always. If people want to see pictures from all your travels, what site have you done, or where can people find your catalog of life?
X is going to give it to you because if you go over to twitter.com, aka x/x, X is going to give it to you. You can find me over at Alex Kozina, ALEXKOZINA.
Go search the same term on X videos, see what pops up. Maybe Alex has an OnlyFans. I don't know.
Don't have an OnlyFans, but you never know.
Look.
You never know.
Adam, is there something you want to promote too that's coming up, or a place people can find you, or like a show people should watch? Max? Same for the whole family?
Yeah, no, Isle of Misfit Rolls series finale is up as a podcast and video. Again, I'll be at PAX West, so anyone going to Seattle on Labor Day weekend, let me know. We can hang out, get drinks.
Right.
Yep. Do I do anything else? I'll be playing Baldur's Gate. Leave me alone.
And I'll be at Safeway in San Jose. Come see me here on Friday at the grocery store. And thank you so much for everyone for listening. Until next time, here's our usual sign-off. The trademark infringement suit, actually in 1958, Putt Putt became the owner of several federal trademark registrations, and they have a series of establishments called Putt Putt Fun Centers. The Motley Group LLC franchised a Putt Putt Fun Center, and then eventually stopped becoming a franchisee, decided not to pay their licensing. Another company took over Motley Group LLC and continued to use the Putt Putt Fun Center logo, signage, and character named Buster, who was a cartoon miniature golf ball, without actually paying and being associated with the trademark of Putt Putt Fun Centers. And that was resolved in the early 2000s. So Putt Putt has been owned by them since 1958, and that has nothing to do with the game.